We want to talk about August 9th, elections, the preparedness for this. We know this is nominations month and political parties are either doing nominations or doing nominations. They're allowed by law to do direct or indirect nominations. We also know that this is the time for coalitions to register themselves if they'd like to become a coalition political party. This is also the time. What are the deadlines for this? It's important for us to know this. What are the deadlines for people submitting their nomination certificates to the IEBC? And what are the requirements for people to submit their nominations to the IEBC? We know one of them is Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which is on leadership and integrity. There's a Leadership and Integrity Act. There's all this requirement that people need to pass a certain threshold for them to be cleared to vie for the election. What is that threshold? Joining us in the studio this morning is Eric Ngumbi. He's the head of corporate communications and will shortly be joined by Juliana Cherera. She is the vice chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Before then, the day's proverb. It is from Malawi. As a child is a man wrapped in his mother's womb. As an adult, in tradition, come death, and he is wrapped in earth. As a child is a man wrapped in his mother's womb. As an adult, in tradition, come death, and he is wrapped in earth.
There's going to be always something that gets your attention through the stages of life.
Yes. Julia says one of the other translations to this proverb could be that freedom is an illusion. You're doomed to exist in shackles.
Wow. Wrapped up in something.
You're doomed to be, everywhere you are, you have to coexist within certain rules and regulations. Right? You're wrapped in something. Eric Ngumbi from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. A very good morning to you and good to have you on the show.
Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to facilitate this session.
Yes, Sante Sana. So there's a lot of work that you do at EACC, and we've had several conversations with the EACC on this. This particular one is with regards to the election. Elections are coming up, and we know that EACC plays a part and a role in this. Maybe you can just give us, what exactly do you do for these elections, for elections?
Okay, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is mandated to enforce Chapter 6 of the Constitution. That is besides combating and preventing corruption in the country. So Chapter 6 of the Constitution is that chapter that Kenyans enacted for themselves to guide how their affairs are to be managed. Perhaps one of the things that we may need to ask ourselves is why Kenyans thought it important to have a chapter on leadership and integrity in the supreme law of the land. Before the 2010 Constitution, Kenyans wanted to achieve a number of things. Kenyans wanted a society where orders of public officials could be effectively held to account. Kenyans wanted to address the public accountability deficits that were there before, to address bad governance, and that is why we ended up with Chapter 6 of the Constitution to guide how people get into office, either through appointment or election. So in short, Chapter 6 of the Constitution provides for the integrity and ethics requirements that bind those who are tasked to manage our public affairs.
So do we define those ethics? I mean, what is it that is ethics and what is integrity?
Good. Those being general principles that are outlined in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, Parliament was required to enact a statute to clarify. For instance, when do we say that one has integrity? And when do we say that one is short of those integrity requirements? And that is why we have the Leadership and the Integrity Act of 2012. And Section 13(2) of that act specifically lists the various forms of conduct that are prohibited for somebody who is seeking election to join public office. It's about honesty in the management of public affairs, just the basic things that you see, not giving false information to the public, not abusing one's office, recognizing that an opportunity to serve in the public sector is an opportunity to give service, but not an opportunity to eat. So the moment public officials begin to see the public office as a position of public trust, then that is when they would avoid things that are inimical to the very public interest that they are called upon to protect.
Right. Eric, it's interesting about this integrity, because oftentimes you don't question one's integrity until they've done something or have behaved in a manner that then has a question mark. I mean, you're not going to walk around asking people, do you have integrity today? Do you have it today? Is this the way you're operating? You know? But when something happens is when you say, hold on a minute, there might be something wrong here. So it's almost as though you're saying, we are not able to test these limits until something may have been put. Because EACC doesn't walk around people's offices asking, are you all right today? Are you doing well? EACC goes to places whereby there's a question about what somebody may or may not have done. So isn't it that we are kind of hoping that nothing goes wrong, but only waiting for something to go wrong before we can now then start to ask the questions?
You are raising a serious issue. One, I want to look at it in two ways. First of all, integrity is a very broad concept, because when somebody is engaging in corruption, that is one of the manifestations of integrity deficits. Yeah. So in terms of fighting corruption, which is an integrity issue, we don't just wait until people engage in corruption, then we set the law in motion. We have various proactive measures. And Kenyans may wish to know that actually one of our successful strategies in the fight against corruption is the proactive investigations, where we seek to dismantle corruption cartels, we disrupt the transactions before they materialize, and as a result, I think on an annual basis, we are able to avert potential loss of a minimum of 5 billion every year.
Okay. Now,
and the secondly, on the same, before I lose this point, proactive mechanisms for nurturing integrity would require everybody to undertake certain measures. For instance, would require schools to inculcate integrity in their curriculum, would require the faith sector, churches and mosques, who are also guardians and custodians of our morality, to also talk about some of these things. We expect the media, professional bodies, to integrate integrity in their programming, so that at the end of it, we can talk about an ethical society that is ethical. And you know, when people are ethical, they cannot engage in corruption. So I would say that ethics and integrity are actually effective frontiers in fighting corruption. You make people ethical, they will not make the decision to engage in corruption and other acts that hurt the public. So we as a commission tend to use both proactive and reactive measures.
How proactive are you in weeding out elements that are unethical or lack integrity in the next election? Because you're talking about people who are going to be presenting themselves as candidates to the electorate. They'll be cleared. There's a requirement for clearance.
Yes.
So what role are you playing in that clearance requirement?
Thank you for that question, Eric. And this is one issue that has not been well understood within Kenya. And I think this is an opportunity to clarify so that it is understood by all and sundry. First, EACC does not have any mandate to clear persons who are seeking to contest elections. That mandate is vested in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. IEBC is required to satisfy itself that before an aspirant is cleared for registration as a candidate, they meet all the requirements. And we must understand that compliance with the prescribed integrity requirements under the Constitution is a mandatory requirement. Does that mean that EACC has no role? No. EACC, on the other hand, as the custodian of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, is in possession of integrity profiles of the people who are seeking elections. So what we do, Our role is simple and clear. The Commission is supposed to advise the IEBC on the integrity, suitability of those who have offered themselves seeking clearance from
Okay.
IEBC.
Okay.
IEACC, on the other hand, is also required to advise the public on the integrity standing of the persons who have offered themselves for election. So it is our expectation that once we tell the country that so and so
Has questions here and there.
this is unresolved questions, is facing corruption charges, has been convicted, we expect people to make decisions based on that. And for the citizens, it's even most important because these are individuals who will come to us making all manner of promises. So why would we elect somebody we know is a thief?
So you
for
have
instance?
an advisory role. You advise the public and you advise IEBC.
Yeah, on the integrity status, of the
integrity status
persons
of every person.
who are seeking this kind of
So,
clearance.
in what form is this advisory? Because as a voter, I have not seen any advisory coming from EACC so far on any candidate that's seeking my vote.
Perhaps the best way to answer that is to share the experience of the last general election that was 2017.
Yes.
First of all, it has to be acknowledged that the responsibility of EACC is complementary to that of IEBC. No agency can really succeed when it's not working with the others.
Yep.
Because IEBC will require information on the integrity stability of these people. That information is in possession of EACC because we have data on all these individuals and who is charged, who has been convicted. So in 2017, we collaborated with the IEBC, as a result of which IEBC forwarded to us a list of 16,182 persons who are seeking various positions, presidential candidates, those who want to be governors, MCS, women rep, etc. So our responsibility was to look at our database together with any other information that is available, any other information that is in custody of our partner agencies. And we gave a report to IEBC on the persons who had unresolved integrity questions. That was 106 people. Due to other technical challenges of the law that I will discuss later if time allows, IEBC was not able to bar the 106 people. So these are people who had active cases in court. Others had been convicted, but they had appealed. Others were facing what I can call very bad charges that a reasonable Kenyan should not elect them to office. Surprisingly and regrettably, 80% of the 106 were actually elected. Two of them were eventually impeached on grounds similar to which we had raised. So the question is, if citizens proceed to elect people they know or ought to know that they have integrity issues, and we're electing these people to go and manage the same public resources they are accused of embezzling, when they proceed and embezzle the resources,
So
when do we want?
I'm uncomfortable in
Why
my
do we
seat,
want-
Eric. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this because as you're saying this is what is presented in my mind,
Yes,
right?
yes.
The people in the kitchen
Yes.
know that the
Yes.
food that is about to be served on the buffet
Yes.
is suspect.
Yes.
Maybe it's been sitting out on the counter for some time. It has become, it has gone bad,
Yes.
right? It is likely to cause food poisoning.
Yes.
The people on the outside may have an idea, but not really sure. But the people in the kitchen know
Yes.
for sure, and they have the power to be able to remove that option from the buffet. But they go ahead and serve it with the hope that the people who are coming to serve themselves maybe will sniff that the food is bad.
Yes.
But you're leaving the ultimate decision with them. Meanwhile, you are aware that this food you have put out there is bad. Whose responsibility then is it?
You are raising a fundamental issue, and I think it is important that we all acknowledge that law on its own and of itself cannot be an effective tool for social control. Because one of the reasons why IEBC has not been able to bar people, I understand them, it's also because the laws that we use have certain gaps. And that is why, and this is very important for me, law must always be complemented with other non-legal measures. But if we sit as a country and say that only the tool called law will be used to help us reach the destiny that we want, then there will be a problem. Law must be complemented with other non-legal measures, and it is those non-legal measures such as
The ballot.
individual responsibility and commitment to do the right thing. Ethical leadership, even by other leaders who are supposed to guide the citizenry, and also collective action.
We've had this issue about the law many times, Eric. So, because you told us, let's look at the example of 2017.
Yes.
EACC gave an advisory to the IEBC.
Yes.
That 106 of the candidates that you gave us
are facing very bad charges.
are facing some serious questions of integrity.
Yes.
But IEBC was not able to act.
Yes.
Why?
Because of gaps in the law.
Which gaps are these? Let's be very specific here.
Thank you. I'm happy that we are discussing this because there are many falsehoods out there, and it is important that we clarify this. Kenya is a country governed by the rule of law, and that is what we have elected. It is the route that we have taken.
Okay.
The same constitution that requires individuals to have integrity before they are given an opportunity to manage public affairs also provides for due process.
Okay.
Articles 99 and 193 of the Constitution that provide for the qualifications for persons to be elected to office have singled out this question of integrity, and they do provide that one must satisfy the requirements of Chapter 6, but there's a rider that in the event one is found to have violated Chapter 6 of the Constitution and therefore ineligible, that individual ought to be given an opportunity to exhaust the appeals that could be there. And there's a good reason for that, because sometimes accusations are not always with merit. Yeah, sometimes one is taken through the system, and at the end of the day, you realize that they were actually innocent.
Yep.
So there is a gap in the sense that if you were to wait for an individual to exhaust all the avenues for appeal, sometimes one could even serve even for 2 terms. For instance, one of the persons we had included in the 106 names list is a sitting MP. At that time, he had a case involving forgery of academic certificates. That case is still in court. And
It
the
has not been
individual will
concluded.
probably offer themselves for election this time. The case is still not over. If the individual proceeds with the High Court to appeal, eventually to the Court of Appeal, he could as well end up serving this time. So there is that gap, and that's why I was saying.
So you will advise IEBC that certain individual has cases pending before court.
Yes.
And these are cases that touch on integrity and ethics.
Yes.
But IEBC's hands are tied because this person has not exhausted all avenues of appeal.
That is the gap.
Okay.
It is,
There's a second advisory role that you said
yes.
that you have.
Yes.
You advise IEBC
Yes.
and you advise the electorate.
Yes.
Because the decision of the voter,
Yes.
when Eric Latif goes and votes not for this candidate,
Yes.
that cannot be questioned anywhere.
Yes.
So I have the ultimate power. If I choose not
Yes.
to vote for Eric Ngumbi,
Yes.
for whatever reason, it could be because I suspect his integrity issues. It could be because I know his integrity issues, or it could be because I just don't like his leadership style, or he hasn't convinced me, or there's a better candidate. I'll not vote for Eric Ngumbi. But you have an advisory role to tell me that's such and such a candidate. The same information you're giving IEBC, you can give me.
Yes. Let me clarify further. The moment we advise IEBC by way of giving a list of the the individuals who have outstanding integrity issues, you will find that there are some actually who have been convicted, but they do not lie in the category of those individuals who are yet to exhaust their appeals, because there are people who do not appeal.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is very important also, it is not just about the court process. It's not about people going to court. There are other decisions that are made by quasi-judicial bodies. For instance, a county assembly that has impeached a person. We could have a commission of inquiry that has made adverse findings. We could have, a tribunal that has also made a finding that somebody is in violation of Chapter 6. So it's not just about the court. And there are individuals, actually, who have been named in various reports, and they have not exercised their right to appeal. So those are findings of violations that may not be covered under that exception where one must exhaust or appeals. So the point that I was making, and this is very important, if Kenya wants to effectively realize what was envisaged under Chapter 6 of the Constitution, then this has to be a multi-sector
You're running away
approach.
from my question, Eric.
I'm
I
coming
want
to it.
I want to ask you directly.
I'm coming to it.
Why did the IEBC not tell Eric and
Yes.
the other voters
Yes.
about the 106 persons in
Yes.
2017? Do I expect IEBC, for example, this year to name and tell me,
Yes.
these are the candidates who are seeking elections? We
Yes.
have received this list from IEBC,
Yes.
and we'd like to tell you, Kenyans,
Yes.
that these are the integrity questions that have been raised in various sectors. And we also are forwarding this to the IEBC so that I make one decision informed.
Eric, you are right on that. Actually, IEBC and the EACC, being public bodies, are already bound by the Constitution to give important information that they have to the public. And that information was public. And we continue to say, and our CEO is on record saying this, we will tell the country what the integrity status of the various aspirants is. We are working closely with the IEBC. We will identify persons where decisions inimical to their candidature have been made. And IEBC will hopefully look at what can be done within the law as is, because we must appreciate that we still have some gaps in the law. And bar those ought to be bad. I'm happy the vice chair has arrived. Karibu, vice chair. So
Thank you.
that is it. But most importantly, the citizen must do their bit, because the ultimate vetting is to be done by the citizen. The ultimate vetting. Ours is to tell them what the individuals are like. And finally, the gaps that we are talking about under Article 193 and 99 are part of matters that are currently pending before court. And we are hoping that the court will adopt what is referred to as a harmonized interpretation of the Constitution, and look at our Constitution this way. On one hand, it gives us national values under Article 10. It also provides leadership and integrity provisions under Chapter 6. And on the other hand, it tells us that an individual must exhaust all the avenues of appeal before they are barred. So taking that harmonized interpretation of the Constitution and asking this important question, whether Kenya intended to have persons facing corruption charges elected to
Actually
public
being
office, and then
elected.
give us a decision.
Okay.
So courts have in the past made very good decisions. So we are looking forward to that kind of jurisprudence.
Let's
But
take a break.
Meanwhile,
We'll continue with this
citizens
conversation
must
shortly.
vet these people.
We'll continue this conversation shortly. Juliana Cherera is the vice chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. She's joined us. We'll have the conversation with her shortly after the break. But Juliana, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Ni nini, what happened? Umeishiwa na mafuta kwa kwa njia?
Nimepatikana na jam.
Kanunua mafuta na jerrycan. 28 minutes to 8. Keep it here for more conversations coming up shortly.
This is the Situation Room.
The conversation continues. This is the Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM and also live on YouTube and Facebook, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. With you in the room this morning, Nduoko, Eric Latif, Eric Ngumbi, Head of Corporate Communications at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and Juliana Cherera, the Vice Chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. We're looking at the journey towards August 9th, the preparations, and especially EACCs here to tell us who they'll be clearing. well, Eric has already told us they don't have a responsibility to clear candidates. They have a role for advisory. The responsibility to clear candidates lies with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Oh, yes.
And, and the IEBC has already gazetted the election dates. And also with that come the timelines ahead of the election. We know that April and a bit of May is nomination time. Political parties are supposed to be conducting their primaries or basically just handing out party nomination certificates. Those who seek to be running as independents will also have their time to go to IEBC. Everybody will end up going to the IEBC and saying, I want to vie as MCA, as whatever, up to president. And then IEBC will ask EACC and others, is this person suitable? And then, satisfying themselves that the person is suitable, they'll give us the candidates to elect. Hiya, Juliana. Eric, before you walked in here, threw you under the bus and said, for example,
rolled over you with the bus.
Said, for example, in 2017, IEBC gave us a list of 16,182 candidates who are vying for various positions in the country. And they told us, do you think these people are suitable? They burnt the midnight oil. And they gave IEBC a list of 106 people who they said had some integrity questions here and there. But then the IEBC went ahead and still cleared those people to vie. And 80% of them got elected. Thereafter, some 2 have been impeached. But the issue is, why does the IEBC get to clear these candidates? We understand there's a law and all, but just explain it from the IEBC position.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the invite. Yes, we work together with the EACC, and according to Chapter 6, we need to know the integrity of these people. And IECC gives us a list of names and cases that these people have. But as IEBC, we are hands tied because of the law that we cannot bar anyone if they have not completed the whole process, judicial process. So if they are not convicted in court, we cannot bar them. And the Constitution also gives the people the right to vote and the right to vie for any position. So this information is public, and it is now upon the Kenyans to look at the integrity of their leaders and to decide who they're going to choose. But for IEBC, we'll present all of them before the people.
Are we essentially saying then beyond an advisory role, the IEBC then cannot put a bold foot forward and say that we will not clear this person or we will not clear this person because of the law? So the other side of the question would then be, if the law as it is currently constituted did not exist on that particular element, would IEBC then clear these individuals? We're speaking in the hypothetical here.
Yes, we are a law-abiding commission. And if the law gave us explicit powers to bar them, we will do that. But as it says, we are bound by the law. And if someone is still in court and they've not exhausted, the matter has not been heard in court, we will not bar them. We will still clear them.
Is it not dangerous then? Because I see what we're saying here is that we've already formed something where we say, if then somebody has been presented to you by IEBC, by EACC, and you still then go ahead and elect them, at the end of the day, you as the people, the electorate, then that falls on your shoulders, having selected somebody who you have cleared and you know that there's a comma in their behavior.
Yep.
May I add something
Yes,
to
yes,
what she has
Eric.
said? It is actually in the public interest that IEBC does not proceed to bar people unless they have followed the law as currently is. This is because these individuals will go to court, and if they win these cases, then the public will have to pay the costs. And that is why we are insisting that the Constitution of Kenya 2010, having given the citizen a very powerful voice and placed them at the center of governance, citizens have to take up their responsibilities. IEBC has a very elaborate voter education program. EACC also undertakes capacity building, targeting the public, and we are telling citizens that time is ripe for them to take up their civic responsibilities and support or complement what these agencies are doing.
Is there anything in law that would bar you from going all out, publishing IEBC, for example? You're going to have some voter education campaign and sensitization campaign, right? Across all media. Is there anything that bars you from basically going out to say, candidate so-and-so has some integrity questions? We have been advised by the EACC that candidate so-and-so has some integrity questions. However, they have a case pending before court. And that's why we have not barred them from coming to you, but you make the decision. Can't you just tell me directly? Because I can bet you, these 106 people, yes, people have heard about them, people have heard, but once you see somebody has been cleared by the relevant authorities, a voter would assume, oh, maybe what I've been reading actually is wrong. This person has been cleared to come before me.
Okay.
You have a role, don't you, to sensitize me that I am only clearing this person because my hands are tied.
Because the law demands that I do.
But they have questions.
As IEBC, what we do, we go out and sensitize the public on voter education. Now, on voter education, we don't campaign for or against someone. When someone has been cleared, we don't go out there specifically campaigning against them or for them. So what we do is we tell the people who is a leader. You know, in general terms, who is a leader, the kind of things you want them to do, who is a governor, who is a senator, what are the roles of these positions, what are they supposed to do for you, what are the things that are cut out for the governor, and what is the role of the senator, what is the role of the MCA, what is the role of the member of parliament. That is what we do. Then we teach them how to vote, yes, so that we don't have spoilt votes. We teach them the importance of taking their rights to come out in their large numbers and vote, because that one determines the voter outcomes. So that is the role that we do. We call it voter education. But there are other bodies that come in to speak, to teach, to sensitize people, the civic education part of it. The other bodies come in to complement that. Yes.
But
maybe
Vice Chairperson, okay, come in here.
Just to strengthen what she's saying, now that we are in agreement that we sometimes have gaps in the law, one way of addressing those gaps is electing men and women of integrity, because the people we elect are the ones who make the laws that govern our affairs. So you cannot expect people with facing corruption charges
to make
get
laws
elected, then
would-
they go and make strong anti-corruption laws.
Which is why I'm coming back to
This is
these two
it.
questions.
Isn't
And
that
I'm
just
asking,
it? Yeah.
for you, IEBC, is there any section of the law that bars you from publishing the list of the people that you receive from EACC that have integrity questions?
It's actually public
And making
information.
sure, no, it's public information, yes.
Yes.
But I'm saying, making sure that you actually go out and create adverts and say, these persons have questions of integrity.
It is public.
Name it.
It is public knowledge. And as EACC, when they give us that list, they make it public.
Yeah.
For
And
us, we look at it and then we still clear them. Now, sessions like this ones that now we are talking, why does IEBC clear them?
Why do we
finally?
still clear
You
them?
see, because of the law. They have the right to still...
I get it.
Yes, you
I
can.
100% get
Yes,
it. I'm
yes,
just
but
saying,
that-
this issue of it being public where?
in the many spaces, the many platforms that we have.
Do you have a responsibility, a duty, to actually ensure that this is as public as possible, as widely known as possible? To make sure that this list is not only just put in one national newspaper of wide circulation or gazetted, blah, blah, blah. Just make sure that there is information that goes out to say, these people have integrity questions.
If I may jump in there, because I think there's an optics here that plays out that we're not taking into consideration. Because if we look at the list of things that have been documented by IEBC that are requirements for these individuals then to present themselves to public office, one of them is that meet the moral and ethical requirements under the Leadership and Integrity Act, right? So the questions come about, how do you then go ahead to determine this? Should that have been determined? And we say there's this thing in the law, then that stops us from doing that, right? But you see, the thing is, once the IEBC has given the clearance, the optics play a huge role here. Whether somebody in the public is aware that this individual may have a taint on their image, the IEBC, as that authority, that body, once you give the clearance, you're more or less saying that you've erased whatever stain there is on this individual.
Not really.
Yeah, that's
Not
one of
really.
the things. Huh?
That's
Yeah,
how it
consider
looks.
Really?
That's how it looks.
Okay, that is
as the
perception.
authority,
That
which
is
is
perception.
hugely important when it comes to
That
this.
is perception.
Yeah.
When someone is cleared, yet EACC has given us a story about them. It is public knowledge. So once they are cleared, IBC will say, this person has ABC. However, they have not exhausted the judicial process. Therefore, because of clause ABCD in the Constitution, does not bar someone who has not exhausted the judicial process. Therefore, this person is cleared.
So in addition to that, that is actually what we will be doing. We are currently working with IEBC. We actually have two committees that are at work, trying to look at the law and identify what the two agencies can do with what we have in the law. And one of the things that I'm certain that we will do is to publish the names of individuals who have pending or outstanding integrity issues. In fact, under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, the Commission is duty-bound to publish such names. So we will work closely and we will guide the country and show Kenyans that this is what Eric Latif is.
Yes.
Do you still want to have him as your governor?
Exactly.
Now,
We will do that.
when you say you'll publish, where will you publish this information?
Publication is, the main platforms, newspapers. We will talk about it here. We are here talking about it. You will invite us again to come and talk about it.
You see,
We will
throughout
publish in the papers.
today, Eric, throughout this conversation, you've told us about 106 persons, 80% of them were elected, some two. You have not mentioned a name.
It's because
It was public information then. It is still public information today. If you have avoided mentioning a name today for something that happened in 2017, how do I trust that you're going to come here next month and actually tell me Eric Latif, in our list that we've told IEBC that Eric Latif has integrity questions?
Actually, Eric, the law requires that every quarter we publish the cases that we are dealing with. And this information is all over in the Kenya Gazette. And sometimes we actually go to the mainstream newspapers and do publish. It's information that's also available in our respective annual reports. So in short, IEBC and the EACC will work together and identify persons who are subjects of adverse decisions regarding violation of Chapter 6 of the Constitution and have not appealed. Somebody who has not appealed does not fit in that category of the protected persons.
Okay.
Those ones will be bad, I believe so. Then those who have made appeals will probably be allowed, and we will tell citizens. And that is why citizens must also know that the Constitution of 2010 changed their status from wananchi to wenye nchi. And I think citizens have not realized the powerful position that they hold under the Constitution. That concept of wenye nchi, they are the ones with the sovereign power. And a critical opportunity is looming in August. We'll be constituting our government.
Yeah.
So if we want good governance post August 9, let us elect men and women of integrity. And by the way, we know each other as a country. We know who the thief is. We know who steals our resources. Now in this era of devolution, we know all those people who are offering themselves for various positions. Let us do the right thing. And then leaders, church leaders who shape the opinions in our society, let us do the right thing. People who are influential like Latif and Edu, let us tell citizens the
want
danger
that list.
of electing
wants
persons with integrity shortcomings
I want
to
that
office.
list.
Yeah.
Juliana.
Let me come in. Let me
Yes.
come in there. Now, we can see that there is a gap in law.
Yes.
Therefore, there is need for the people who are duty bearers to ensure that they work to review this and to fill in the gap, so that come the next election, we will not have these loose ends. In that IBC is bound by law,
Yeah.
and EACC comes in and gives advisory, but still the body that conducts election will not do anything about it. I've been in IEBC since last year, and I'm telling you, everything that we do, it is in accordance to the law. And if you miss it, it's going to cause an end problem.
Integrity questions for the election itself.
Yes, yes. So I am advocating that going forward, this is a gap that the legal practitioners should come in and fill, and our parliamentarians should help us tie it end to end.
There's something that we're very good at in this country, passing the buck. Just taking the baton and passing it and saying, you know what, I am not yet in the finishing line. We are very good at that, which is why I come back to that question. Is there anything that bars you from making adverts that actually put out names? If so and so, if you have a list of, say, this year you have 100 people that you receive from EACC, okay, that tells you that these people have integrity questions. You know, these people, so and so is vying for a governor seat in a certain county. Go to that county and make sure that there is information in the county that says this person has been cleared, but this person has some integrity questions. Would you be taken to court over that?
No, we can't be taken to court because it is. No, we can't be taken to court.
But-
It will do
So
because
that
it
is-
is public. It is public
We will do
information.
that.
And that's why I was saying, if these two institutions actually believe in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, if these two institutions actually believe in the Leadership and Integrity Act, if these two institutions know that the reason why the Leadership and Integrity Act has very many loopholes is because it's the politicians who make the law and they do not want to have themselves barred from running, then you still have an avenue to use. If I saw billboards all over Nairobi telling me so and so who is a candidate for governor in Nairobi
question.
has a question.
On the
Eric.
integrity.
Yes, proper bill
not
alongside
do
this
billboards.
candidate's billboard is
Yes.
another candidate by billboard by EACC and IEBC and others that has put names and mugshots. So and so, these candidates have integrity questions. So and so, so and so, so and so, but they've been cleared to vie for the next election.
Eric, allow me
The
say this.
decision is yours.
Allow me say this.
IBC to do that?
Yes. Why not?
But look, but you've been explicit
Let
here.
me say
Yeah,
this.
if we're looking at something that is,
Allow Eric to say it.
you're looking at, you've been explicit here, and I'm on your website right now. When you've talked about this, you know, you've not held it from your website here. So here you have an individual who has some of these issues that you've already mentioned here. What's difficult about making it even more public, as opposed to just saying, well, you know, we've said it, so it's up to you then, as the citizen, to make the decision.
Remember, I began by saying that we do voter education,
Yes.
but we don't campaign for or against someone.
So now, how?
Remember
But then
that?
you reserve the right to
Remember
blame the
that?
How
citizen
have
later.
Now,
should
when-
they not
why
make
are you
the
calling
right
that
decision.
campaigning? That's not campaigning.
It is advertising. What is
Actually,
advertising at that
constructively-
time?
Constructively,
It is publishing.
could amount to, telling Kenyans, to elect so and so as opposed to so and so. So
Yes.
what we will do, and I believe this is what
Our
the Vice Chair is
partner,
saying.
our partner.
What
Yes.
we will do is to do sufficient publication, but subject to the law. And I can assure you that there are discussions going on between the two agencies. So let no aspirant rest thinking that they are corrupt and there are loopholes in the law.
Sure.
And that's why I
That
started.
would
That's
be
why
the
my
truth.
question is there anything in
That
law
would be
that
the
bars
truth.
you from putting up a billboard that
It-
says
it does not have to
Eric
be a billboard.
Latif? Let's just say billboard for purposes
Yeah.
of every.
But we will give the information.
that everybody can
proper visibility.
We will do
Or a
that.
TV advert. Or
We will
bring
do
ad,
that.
we'll run them here on
But
Spice
subject to
FM.
the law.
High frequency. Every 15 minutes we run. Eric Latif has integrity questions. Eric, is there anything in law that bars you from doing that?
Sometimes it would depend on the circumstances. For instance, if a matter is active in court,
Okay.
you see people are barred from discussing matters that are pending in court. But we have cases where people have been convicted, or we have other cases where the decisions have been rendered and, there is nothing that is pending. So that's why I'm saying that subject to the law, we will do the publication that can be done without any prejudice to legal processes. But let me say this, citizens have a responsibility, and if they can choose their leaders well, we're going to have a very good country. We're going to have the good governance that we wanted when we went out to vote. This business of citizens voting to constitute a government, and then they exit the stage until the next election. That is bad.
Juliana, how are you feeling about this upcoming election as IEBC in terms of just what we've been speaking about? Do you feel that folks have pulled their weight in terms of what they ought to do? And how are you feeling about how Kenyans then will come together to make this vote significant?
Oh, thank you. The fact that we are discussing these contentious issues means that Kenyans have woken up to the fact that they need good leaders. That is one step. And I'm seeing the voters being aware of the kind of leaders that they want this time round. I'm looking at the voters are a little bit... They have their own kind of attitudes. And now if I talk of the voter, the youth, there is apathy. They don't want to come out to even get registered. By the way, registration is still ongoing in our constituency IEBC offices. But the trend of the youth is really down. And the opposite of it is the youths at the universities and colleges really came out in their numbers to get registered. So what does this tell us? That the youth out there are used to get handouts for them to do their civic right, while the youths in the universities and colleges have been sensitized, are more aware of their rights and responsibilities. And this calls for more of sensitization that needs to go down to the grassroots, and especially targeting the youth that we have. As IBC, we are on time, on schedule with our plan. Remember, we have an election operation plan whereby it specifies the activities and things that we need to do. Yes, so we are good
You're
to
ready.
go.
We'll keep inviting you here, Juliana, so you can come and tell us, the crucial dates and what needs to happen, what we need to look out for. But we thank you very much for joining us this morning.